And we can announce that Wisp Prime is going to be coming July 27th. On all platforms, you'll finally get Wisp Prime.
Before I begin, I want to address two things. First of all, who the hell is this guy? My name is Wisp. I have played Wisp for over 2500 hours across multiple accounts, and I am not bored of playing her whatsoever. Throughout this playtime, I learned how to maximize Wisp's potential and become very tanky while dealing an ungodly amount of damage. So the best thing I can do with this knowledge is share it. The second thing I want to address is the fact that a lot of people are only here to see the builds and then learn the character on their own, or simply improve their build. So for you people, feel free to pause the video, the builds are being shown on the screen right now. Now without further ado, we can start the guide. Wisp's passive is by far her strongest tool, and in my opinion it's extremely underrated amongst players. Wisp is invisible whenever above the ground at all times. The invisibility's timing is very forgiving, as Wisp becomes invisible immediately upon leaving the ground, and you have a small window of around 0.25 seconds to become visible again after touching the ground. With this in mind, it's very easy to complete missions with Wisp without ever being seen. Wisp will become visible immediately upon shooting a gun while in the air, even if the gun is silent like the buzzer. However, a good handful of weapons can still be heavily abused with the passive. Bows will retain the invisibility for their entire charge, allowing you to shoot a very strong shot while invisible. Every gun in the game with a charge-up mechanic will allow you to keep the invisibility while charging, essentially removing their biggest downside. And melee weapons allow you to stay completely invisible while using them in the air. Knowing this, a lot of guns become extremely strong under her grasp, and we will showcase those later. Lastly, wall climbing will let you keep invisibility, while wall latching will turn you visible instantly. Reservoirs is the ability Wisp is most known for. It's an ability that grants a conditionally endless buff for you and your teammates. This ability scales mainly with strength, but there are a few other things to know in order to min-max it. The three buffs are as follows. Vitality mode gives you a flat HP gain and HP regen equal to 1/10 of the flat HP this ability grants per second. For example, the base stats of this mod are 300 health and 30 health per second. Haste mode is by far the strongest one, giving you a big boost to your movement speed and attack speed or fire rate. One lesser known thing about this ability is that the attack speed buff is greater than the movement speed buff, and the percentage showcased on the buff list next to your health is showing the movement speed percentage. The base movement speed buff is 20%, while the base attack speed buff is 30%, matching the 30 HP per second buff your vitality mode provides. The final mode is the Shock mode, and its main usage is to provide CC in order to protect objectives. Most of the time, you should not use this mode at all, as it will prevent a core mechanic that will make us deal a ton more damage to the enemies. We will explain this when we get to the weapon section of this video. In order to max this ability strength should be your #1 priority, followed by duration. Whatever you do, please do not leave your build at 45% range. It becomes too awkward for everyone in your team to get the buff, and adding range to your build also helps your other abilities. In Warframe, there are 3 types of ability strength buffs. They are separated as 1. The temporary strength buffs like Sling Strength from Madurai. 2. The permanent strength buffs are used on the next ability like Energy Conversion. And 3. The temporary strength buffs for the next ability, which as far as I know can only be found in the Pax Bolt augment for your KitKats. Since this ability lasts on the ground forever, all of these temporary buffs can be abused in a way to stay on permanently. In order to do this, you want to activate the permanent buffs for your next ability first, followed by any temporary buffs, then try to get the Pack's Bulk buff last. This way, all of the buffs will be activated onto the ability and stay on forever. We will go more in depth on this topic after explaining the build to show the exact order. Finally, if you have created a super powerful buff abusing this mechanic and a nullifier bubble destroys the modes, you can still keep the buff as long as you keep the buff yourself. Putting a new buff down will refresh the duration of the super powerful buff without replacing it. This is also a mechanic if multiple wisps are in the squad. The buffs with the most amount of ability strength will take priority. This can get frustrating on some public squad when there is a mode with max strength and 17-second duration, replacing your own buff that feels very comfortable. Wil-O-Wisp is Wisp's second ability, and it's her main tool for survivability. By pressing it, Wisp becomes instantly invisible, and a ghost appears in front of her that takes aggro of every enemy around. Pressing the ability again allows Wisp to teleport to the ghost and become invincible for a small duration. This ability is perfect for protecting yourself against lethal damage over time inflicted from enemies' slash procs, or to dodge bombard grenades at high level. Pressing the ability twice really quickly will instantly grant you invincibility and save you from potential threats. Since this ability doesn't have a specific amount of health like Siren's Mold, it's impossible for enemies to destroy it. At extremely high levels, it's very important to use this ability as much as possible in order to draw aggro from the enemies and keep yourself safe from the Eximus lethal attacks. This ability can also be held down to make the ghost travel faster, and releasing it is gonna make you teleport to the ghost this time. I have only found one use in the entire game for this mechanic, and it's right here in the Corpus Stahlta in order to get to the extraction faster. Breed Surge is Wisp's 3, and it's also her subsumable ability from Helmet, one of the most powerful ones out there. Using this ability will blind everyone around you while making them release a spark when they die, equal to the last tick of damage that was dealt to them and then multiplied by 2. This ability has a 10% chance to release a spark whenever an enemy is hit by any type of damage, while the sparks themselves have a crit multiplier of 1.5 if the last shot that killed your enemy was also a crit. You can also cast this ability on your modes from 10 meters onwards to teleport to your modes and double the range of the ability's blind. Doing this will make the ability cast from your modes right after you teleport, and the teleport range itself is infinite. If you cast Breed Surge while Wil-O-Wisp is active, the ability will also be casted from the clone to cover a bigger area. This can also be combined with the teleport function to double the range of this ability for both you and your clone, potentially covering a massive area and unleashing destruction on the battlefield. Finally, this ability is also able to blind enemies with overguard, such as the Dax Malu that appears in the Weary, any Thrax enemy and any Eximus enemy. Soul Gate is Wisp 4 and unfortunately her most useless ability. I will not talk much about this ability as I don't use it because it's too weak. There are of course uses for it if you buy Wisp with Plat or if you're still completing Star Chart, as its damage is still okay up until level 50, but I don't think it's worth discussing further. However, there are still 3 mechanics for this ability if you still want to use it. If an enemy is affected by Breed Surge, they will release a spark for every tick of damage they suffer by Soul Gate. Each one of your mods boosts Soul Gate's damage, so if you use it you must have all 3 active at the same time. And holding down the fire button makes it way stronger, but this results in Wisp being slower and your energy drain being twice as fast, making it useful for boss fights only. On our build, we will replace this ability with a damage buff ability or empower for more strength. Speaking about builds, let's take a look at them. So the first build and the most important ones can work everywhere from squad to playing solo, but this is mostly for playing solo in my opinion, is this one. So we start off with the Archon shards. We have 2 red ones for strength and 3 blue ones, all of them for armor, which is in my opinion one of the most broken stats in the game, because as you can see with 850 armor we get a whopping 74% damage reduction on our character. which is absolutely crazy, and you become extremely tanky using this. So really important to have that on. On our replacement ability, as I said, we will replace Soulgate with any kind of damage buff. So here's the main build with Eclipse. Eclipse is the best if you're running solo by far. And we have strength modes, Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, Energy Conversion, which I will showcase its use and how you need to use it, but it is one of the permanent strength buffs for your next ability that is very broken on Wisp and one of the best modes to have on her. Umbral Intensify for the extra strength, Adaptation for tankiness, although you could go with more armor here using health conversion. Health conversion is very nice, but I prefer adaptation because I don't like using stealth while using this build much. And then growing power will be the aura mode for extra strength. Prime Surefooted is it is a login reward, but it is very strong, especially when you count explosive weapons and how insanely fast you will be able to shoot explosive weapons with this build. But if you don't have Prime Surefooted, the alternate mode here is Handspring. It is way cheaper as well, so you will have even more extra capacity for your build. And then, as I said, you know, after all the strength, the next stat is duration, so we have Narrow Minded for that. That takes our duration to 172 and our mode's duration to 51-second buff. More than enough time to refresh it whenever possible or to do an entire mission with it even. Really nice. Stretch mode is the last one, and it's because, as I said, we don't want this. This is bad, okay? Avoid this at all costs, please. Don't greed with Augur Reach. This is still bad. Like, this is still bad. 11.52 versus... where is it? 14.22. So don't greed it. This is not just 3 meters. It's 6 meters, and it's doubled or like quadrupled because you do Wil-O-Wisp plus Breathe Surge on your mods. So this is like a big downgrade on Breathe Surge and a really big quality of life on your first ability. Now for Arcanes, we have Multi-Augmented because survival missions are mostly what you're gonna do with Wisp. Let's be honest here. Most people are gonna pick it to go on Steel Essence Survival and just stay AFK in their squad, but in general it is still the best. And then Arcane Avenger is crazy on her since you will take damage pretty much all the time and just tank through it with this build. This build is extremely tanky, as we're gonna showcase. These Arcanes are by far the best ones. No energy issues even with 45% efficiency because you're only gonna cast your abilities once pretty much and then you're done. Roar is the next one, same build, no differences, just Roar instead of Eclipse. Warcry replaces energy conversion with Eternal War in order to keep the buff of Warcry active all the time. This is a melee focused build and I usually use this only when playing Sigma Noctantis just because the attack speed is way too crazy and I like to have fun with it. And then Zada's Whisper, we replace Arcane Avenger with Arcane Guardian because usually when using Zada's Whisper we're gonna use weapons like the Felorix, like the Liatum, like the Fenmore. These weapons, none of them really have any kind of crit chance, and in fact they don't really want crit chance either, so we avoid it like the plague and take more armor instead to become even more tanky. For the second build, this will be a max strength build only, where we don't really care about anything else, so we have 5 red Archon swords and all of them are for ability strength. I like the setup with 3 Tau Forge and 2 normal ones because it gives us exactly 420% strength here, which is always nice. First of all, the abilities replacing Soulgate are Empower or Roar most of the time, because there won't be any times that you will run this solo, but if you do for some reason, you should always go Eclipse, because it's the best one for running solo. But usually Empower or Roar, and Roar is usually better, but some squads might require this. For the build itself, we want 3 Umbro modes, which to max this out completely you will require 3 Umbra Formas, which, you know, I haven't put my third one because I'm waiting for Wisp Prime to release, and then I will put the 3 Umbra Formas on Wisp Prime herself. Then Growing Power for the Aura mode, Blind Rage, pretty much all strength modes as you can see, Energy Conversion, as always this is the best mode to have. And we all balance it out with the duration of Prime Continuity, which would normally go in here if this also had a Umbra mode on it, so we could like put this on. Prime Surefooted, obviously, because you know, in case you're a new player and you don't have this mode, you can replace this with the Handspring mode. which is still absolutely fine and will probably allow you to complete this build without the use of 3 Umbral Formos, because Handspring is much cheaper of a mode than Prime Footed, as you can clearly see. But yeah. For Arcanes, we just want the Strength Arcanes like Molt Augmented and Molt Vigor, and that's about it. This is a maximum strength build, and if you have all your buffs active at the same time and done everything correctly, you can easily reach around 750% strength. The way to do this will look very daunting at first, but I swear it gets very easy once you get used to it. So we want to start with Empower, and then proc Molt Vigor, which are the 2 permanent buffs that you want to have at all times. And try to get an Energy Orb so you can proc Energy Conversion, which is the 3rd permanent buff you can have. And now all you need to do is proc Growing Power while Sling Strength is active. So you want to Sling Strength and then proc Growing Power, and that is it. You have a very strong buff of 1890 something health, and same goes for Fire. So say it again. Power, Molt Vigor, take an Energy Orb. Power has to be done first, because if you take an Energy Orb first and then press Empower, the Energy Orb Energy Conversion buff will be, it will be on top of Empower. So Empower has to be the first thing that you do. And then you do Molt Vigor, and then you pick up the Energy Orb, or vice versa, that doesn't really matter. Then all you need to do, once again, is Sling Strength and proc Growing Power, and that's it. We have buff. And to make this even better, you can add a Mercy Kill to it, which has an extra 50% strength. You can add, the Pax Bolt Augment on headshots, which will add another 30% strength from that. So you can easily get around 2500 health per second if you also max Molt Augmented, but yeah, the result is pretty devastating with the Tombfinger especially. As you can clearly see. For the first build, this procedure is much simpler. Way more simpler. So all you need to do is get an Energy Orb. That's it. Once you get an Energy Orb, you can just do the double dash to proc Sling Strength, and then as long as you proc 1 status proc, which pretty much all of your weapons will have, you will be able to put your buff down, and it's powerful enough to satisfy pretty much anyone in your squad already. The other build is just a bit overkill. This one is still really good, and the amount of tankings you can get using this build is absolutely absurd, which I think it's about time that we can showcase that. So let's unpose this, guys, and walk in front of him. For reference, these guys are level 165. And if anything goes bad, you always have your second ability to save you. And if you press it, look at your health regen, it's absolutely crazy. So it's really hard to die using this, I'm not gonna lie. It's really hard to die. Now we're finally able to talk about the most important part of this video, in my opinion. The weapons. Since Wisp doesn't have any damaging abilities, her main source of damage comes from her weapons. Weapon choice on Wisp will determine the amount of damage you're gonna do in your squad and how useful you're gonna be besides your reservoirs. The weapons suitable for Wisp are mainly weapons that normally struggle with attack speed, but pack a lot of damage since Wisp's attack speed buff is basically like adding the Val acceleration mode, but even stronger and for free. I will ignore any kind of meta weapons like the New Core and the Incarnate weapons, as these are really good regardless of who you're playing. Instead, I am gonna show you weapons that are super strong for Wisp specifically and will outdamage meta guns with ease because of this. The weapons will get stronger as we go. Let's start with a personal favorite of mine for Endless Mission. The primary Catchmoon Kitgun. This is a fully automatic shotgun shooting plasma shots that go through enemies they kill until they finally fade out. Fully modded, this weapon reaches some disgusting damage and range, and since it's fully automatic, there is no limit to the fire rate you can get. In Endless Fisher missions, I find this weapon ideal since it benefits a ton by both the double strength buff for Wisp that will make your fire rate bonkers, and the infinite ammo to make it a literal laser. And don't forget about Pax Bolt, a really strong weapon to pick up with very high disposition if you really want to maximize its power. Up next is gonna be the other weapon for endless missions. Shedu, the sentient arm cannon, has the same idea with a Catchmoon, but it's instead an explosive weapon with medium explosion range and infinite ammo on its own powered by a battery mechanic. This is the perfect weapon if you want to pretty much AFK in your run, as all you need to do is hold down left click for half a second and anything you look at will die. The battery of this weapon recharges super quickly, but getting infinite ammo on these endless missions is where this weapon can truly shine on how strong it is with Wisp. Next we have my old favorite gun in the game. I have made several videos about this gun, and it's of course the Komorex. This sniper rifle is criminally underrated as it's mostly misunderstood on how it works. Using the second zoom on this sniper rifle adds 100% viral damage and makes your shots explosive but reduces your fire rate. Normally this gun is slow as hell, but with Wisp's fire rate this weapon is a recipe for destruction. From this weapon onwards, our weapons get really deadly and will easily outmatch any meta weapon. Komorex has a disgusting single shot damage output, so its DPS with Wisp is absolutely crazy. The AoE itself is really nice to clear out hordes of enemies, and it's generally an insane gun for Wisp. Do not underestimate it, go try it. Also, since nobody uses it, the disposition is this much and the Ravens cost, basically nothing. I know this list will mainly be primary weapons, but those are the ones that excel with Wisp the most. Up next is the primary Tombfinger kit gun. When Ogrius got nerfed to the ground, I was struggling to keep ammo in Stahlta missions, and I wanted to find weapons to replace it with. One of the weapons was the Envoy. Really strong, and with Wisp's fire rate it feels much more comfortable to use. But I could not have anticipated how disgusting this kit gun is. I mean, look at it, the range is crazy, the damage is crazy, its normal fire rate is pee-pee poo-poo, and it's a way to compensate for all this. But for Wisp, this is just insane. The best part about this is the ammo economy. You get a 23 bullet mag with 120 extra rounds to spare, and every ammo pickup gives you back 20 bullets. 20! It's an insane room clearing weapon, and it's my go-to for exterminate missions regardless of their level. The next gun has a great following, and for a very good reason, the Trumna. It's a perfect combination of fun and destructive capabilities. On one hand, you got a primary fire with 200 ammo, normally slow fire rate, and a lot of damage per shot, and a lot of recoil to compensate. The secondary fire on the other hand can only be activated after killing 5 enemies with its primary fire, and it fires an insanely overpowered grenade that will then bounce up to 7 times, exploding on every bounce. Since this grenade benefits from multi-shot, allowing you to shoot multiple grenades at once, it is very likely that once you shoot it, everything that you see and even everything that you don't see will die. This grenade deals an absurd amount of damage, and the area of effect it can cover if used correctly is absolutely insane. This secondary fire is basically Latron Incarnon but on crack. If this wasn't enough, the primary fire itself is one of the strongest full auto weapons to use with Wisp on its own, making this weapon extremely strong when paired with her. We are finally getting close to the end of the list. Our next weapon is... What was that? Okay, so our next weapon... Oh no. Why am I constantly hearing the sound? Help me. It's stuck on my head. Please make it stop. Please make it stop. I cannot stress this enough. There will never, ever be a better gun to use with Wisp. The Stahlta is literally the perfect weapon for the Wisp. This gun has a ridiculously strong primary fire, rivaling the Trumna in terms of damage, but the secondary fire is where it's at. It's normally so slow, but the damage it deals is truly unreal. But with Wisp, the fire rate, Like, you see an enemy and then you see the damage and it's like... And then you see the freaking stats and it's like... And then you hear the sound. And the sound is like... This is by far my favorite gun, and I will not switch it for anything ever. I may be biased saying this, because I have an obsession over this gun, but like, look at this. I cannot even compare this to anything. Now, we got one more weapon on this list to talk about, and it's by far the strongest combo you can use on Wisp. But before we showcase it, we must explain why. So, in Warframe, there is this thing called the Stealth Multiplier. It's a buff that only applies to melee weapons, and it allows you to deal an extra 700% of your weapon's damage. 7 times your regular damage for free. This only applies for the first attack of your melee weapon against an enemy, because once it gets hit, if they survive, it's not really stealthy anymore, is it? I am pretty sure logic says that they would become aware that they got hit. On Wisp, since attacking while airborne doesn't break invisibility while using melee weapons, you can abuse this mechanic the best using throwable melees. This consists of glaives, the wolf sledge, and some other spatial cases. But by far the strongest ones out of all of them are the Zos, and specifically the Plague Kripath. This is because Zos can use the Exodia Contagion augment, which allows you to throw them and deal a ton more damage. Wait, not the Kronsh? I have tried both, so let me explain why as well. Even if the Kronsh has higher base damage stats and a way higher driven disposition, the Plague Kripath has something that makes it outdamage everything with ease when it comes to Contagion, and that is its innate viral damage. This weapon can be built for both viral and corrosive, making it strong against every single unit in the entire game, while the Kronsh could find some struggles when it comes to heavy units that are only weak to corrosive. Okay, but how do you use this weapon, you may ask? Well, there is a mechanic that allows you to make your Contagion throw have heavy attack properties, doubling the critical chance gained by mods and adding a lot more base damage as well. You can do this by double jumping or bullet jumping, then aiming, and while aiming slide and press your heavy attack key while sliding. Since Eclipse also double dips, we now have Eclipse's effect doubling on this attack's damage, the attack itself having heavy attack properties dealing a lot more than normal, the attack itself gaining an extra 300% damage if it travels enough distance, and finally, a 700% damage buff that applies after all this has been taken into consideration. The result? Well... For goodness sakes, where is my self-control? It's always where my heart is in my heart. Stop! Yeah, it's broken. In fact, it's so broken it feels unintended. I guarantee you, if you try this combo in any public squad on a Fisher mission, you will easily get 99% of your team's damage as long as you can kill 5 enemies with it. When Breed Surge's damage got nerfed and a cap got added to it, everyone was crying because I couldn't just damage cap on every attack anymore. Just use the Kripath. I really hope soon enough we get a different type of damage numbers to show us our actual damage, just because doing damage cap with this weapon is so common. I wanna see my damage, goddammit, like please let me see it. Since this list had no secondary weapon, I will let you know that any meta secondary will do. Some recommendations that I have are the Nucor, the Epitaph, the Lex Prime Incarnon, and the Dual Toxocyst Incarnon. Before I end this video, I want to talk about the Nidus Wisp combo. When doing a Fisher mission, you can abuse this insanely broken combo to get absurd buffs and make endless survival missions a cakewalk. It's simple. Take your max strength Wisp, add a max strength Nidus, get corruption buff on both of them to double their ability strength and range, link Wisp with as much ability strength as possible, and put Wisp buffs down that can easily reach up to 6000% ability strength. Here is some footage of how that looks like in terms of gameplay. πέτει να πάμε να φέρω το μάτι να σε πάσω εδώ. Το πήρα. What the fuck?
Να βρεις φέδες.
Έχεις και εσύ.
Εγώ πήρα ability strength.
Α, οκ, cool. Α, καβάτο αυτό, εντάξει. Η αλήθεια είναι ότι είναι λίγο πιο δυνατό, αλλά...
Τώρα το βλέπω το παύκο, εγώ θα δω το
Το συγκεκριμένο link που μου έκανες είναι λίγο πιο δυνατό κατά 20%. If you made it till this point of the video, thank you, and please stay for like one more minute because I have something for you. First of all, I really hope this guide was useful. I tried keeping it as short and detailed as possible, but after finishing off explaining the mechanics of her abilities, I realized that, well, it simply couldn't be the case. However, I'm still kinda happy with the duration of the video. Wisp Prime releases today and I couldn't be more excited. I have already prepared with stacking a lot of Forma, keeping some money on the side to buy the Prime access, and I even need 2 of them for the 2 builds I use. But before I end off the video, I want to thank you for staying to the end as I told you, and tell you about a small giveaway that I will do. You see, I have quite a few Riven duplicates of weapons I love, and I already have a perfect Riven for them. So I want to give the ones that I do not need to the people that want to start playing Wisp and learn from me. So if this video reaches 100 likes and the giveaway gets at least 10 participants by the 20th of August, I will give away these Rivens to you people in the comments. All I need you to do is comment your in-game name. Unfortunately, your account will need to be on PC since cross-trading is not available yet. Don't blame me for this, blame B. I do hope to see you guys comment, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this video. Thank you so much for watching.